The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
This is a reading of the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus left Tyrrhenian territory and returned by way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee, into the district of the 10 cities. Some people brought him a deaf man who had a speech impediment, and begged Jesus to lay his hand on him. And Jesus took him off by himself, away from the crowd. He put his fingers into the man's ears, and spitting, touched his tongue. And then he looked up to heaven, and he emitted a groan. And he said to the man, "Ephphatha, be opened." And at once the man's ears were opened, and he was free from the impediment, and he began to speak plainly. And then he enjoined them not to tell anyone, but the more Jesus ordered them not to, the more they proclaimed it. And their amazement went beyond bounds. Jesus has done everything well. Jesus makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
There is one word that ties the gospel to the second reading, and that is the word impediment. And it says in the gospel that this man had a speech impediment, and he was also deaf, which means he couldn't hear his own impediment. And he couldn't hear anybody else's speech or any other sound. Most likely he was born that way. And so that was his world. His world was a world with an impediment which separated him and lowered him from everybody else. Okay? And so when Jesus freed him from the impediment, he literally opened up a whole new world in which he was on equal footing with everybody else. And now he had this experience of sound and speech and gospel. The second reading, while not using the word impediment, it used other words that I think we can look at not as physical impediments, but as moral impediments and spiritual impediments. And you can make a discernment about how serious these are and how they might apply to you. Amen.
Amen.
You'll get into it as I go on. Your faith in Jesus must not allow favoritism. Have you not discriminated in your hearts? Have you not set yourself up as judges who hand down corrupt decisions? Okay? Those are impediments. Those are impediments to our faith. Those are impediments to our discipleship. If we do that in our hearts, if we do that in our behavior, our hearts are not the hearts of a disciple. Our behavior is not the behavior of a disciple. And it says we are setting ourselves up. I like that turn of phrase. We're setting ourselves up. Nobody else set us up. I set myself up. Okay? What happens when you set yourself up? You fall. Because you're not supposed to be that way. So you fall. In a way, our favoritisms, our discriminations, our prejudices. Let's give it kind of a familiar name. Okay. These are like the impediments of the deaf man. Okay? He did not even know his speech had an impediment because he couldn't hear it. Amen? If you can't hear what's coming out of your mouth, you don't know what's coming out of your mouth. You don't know if it's the same that's coming out of everybody else's mouth or not. You don't know any better. I think that's what a lot of prejudices are. The reason I think that is because I spent all my meditation on these two readings this week upon my own life and upon my own prejudices and upon the processes of discovering my own prejudices over the last 41 years of being a priest. Okay? When you go from 12 years of living in seminaries with other guys, and then you go into parishes where you have people of other ages and genders and all kinds of other things. And so this little insulated world, which was supposed to prepare you for this, you find out it didn't. Okay? It didn't. And then your whole life of 41 years and counting, you have to go from place to place to place. Community to community to community. And each and every one of those is going to present new challenges. Amen? Amen? Different characteristics, different locations, different mixtures of race and culture, socioeconomic groups. And what does that reveal about you? Not just how am I challenged to serve the people in my pews, it's what in the interaction of this relationship from start to finish, what does it reveal about me and my prejudices? I started to figure it out after I'd been a priest for 7 years. I'm a slow learner. I'm not stupid. I'm just slow. And it took me to become a pastor, which means I'm responsible for everything and everybody. You know, I don't have to point to some other guy and say, well, he's the one in charge, go blame him. No, now I'm the one in charge, you blame me. Okay. And I started out at St. Teresa Little Flower, 58th and Euclid in 1981, where Chip was a cop with a canine. And he came and made us safe. And unfortunately, I was under spiritual direction with a Jesuit, clinical psychologist. He really was my therapist, okay? He was a very good therapist, which I needed, and so do all other priests. But we're not going to go into that. We're just going to talk about me. This whole sermon's about me. It's not about you. This has nothing to do with you, okay? So here I am. I'm in the midst of the black community. And I'd served in the black community before, but not as a pastor, not as in charge of everything and everyone. And I was really struggling in the first months of this. And And so I brought this to cause, and I said, I'm trying my best, and something's in the way. And I said, I don't think I'm a prejudiced person, but... And he said, well, Bob, he said, not all prejudices come from hate and violence and anger. I said, really? He said, yeah, really. He says there's a lot of them that come from fear, from insecurity. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, think about that. Watch yourself. Notice your feelings in your interactions. What's going on inside you? Is it fear? Is it insecurity? Are you afraid you're going to fail? You're going to fail at being a pastor in the black community. And sure enough, there it was. Big as life. Boom! It's there all the time. Didn't see it. Didn't hear it like the deaf man. Did not know it was there. But it was. Big as life. And they knew it was. They could see it. They could hear it. They could smell it. They knew it was. So, how was I going to get cured of that? Through them. Through them. We're going to show you how to pastor us. Why don't you listen? Why don't you learn? Just try doing what we ask you to do. Okay? When you preach, don't stand up here at the pulpit with your notes. Get away from the pulpit and start talking from your heart. And when you pray, don't just pray out of a red book. Close your eyes and pray out of your heart. And if you do that, we'll take care of everything else in church that morning. And they did. And we began to do church together. Okay? And then I look back on my previous experience as an associate, and I found out, my first assignment, it didn't have to do with black people, it had to do with women. Because I hadn't been around them. And I hadn't worked with them as equals. Not just as equals, but as mentors. Because all the women I was working with had more experience than I did. I had the degree, they had the experience. Guess which counted? So they taught me how to be a priest. They taught me the things I never learned in seminary. But I had to let them be my mentors. Okay? And then I got moved to 2 more parishes as an associate, and in both of them, I was called upon to minister to young people, to high schoolers and to college-age students. And I had no idea how to do that. Why? Because I spent my high school years and my college years in a seminary. They didn't. They don't. What's their world like? I have no idea. How are you going to find out? Well, watch and listen. They'll teach you. They'll teach. Well, and then there's little children. That took me longer. I was all the way into my last parish at Nativity of Mary, and finally had the principal and the faculty who said, well, Father, why don't you come on over here and not just do Mass, come in the classroom. And here, we're going to give you all of the middle schoolers at once. You teach them religion. We'll sit here and watch. It was fun. It was fun. I learned how to have fun with them. And in between, there was visitation, okay, and found out that I was prejudiced against people with money and power, okay? I didn't trust them. I felt insecure with them. And it was revealed to me I got that exactly from my dad. Because he grew up during the Depression and all of that poverty and all of that inequality, and how hard it was for him to do that and to go into World War II and to come back and to make it and to raise all 5 of us kids. And so it took me a while. And so how did I learn how to do that? Well, I learned from them. I learned that their humanity and my humanity and their families and my families are basically the same. We are. And then I came up here. Now you get to guess what it is. To guess what it is, you would have to know the background of our family going back into the latter 50s and early 60s on a dairy farm near Clarksdale in Cosby, Missouri, over near St. Joe. And back then, at that time, a lot of anti-Catholic attitudes around there. And so I came from a Catholic ghetto in St. Joe to a very anti-Catholic atmosphere around there, and that actually wound up costing us our farm because those attitudes prevailed on the bank board that handed out loans or not. And I carried that with, and I knew at the time, and I knew for years afterwards that I carried that with me. But it came back like a boomerang when I got sent up here to the country, and I go, holy moly, I have not resolved that. I have held that grudge for all these years. Okay. Impediments. We have to be self-aware to recognize attitudes and actions. We have to be able to see it and hear it and feel it and smell it as something in here that I've been carrying around that sets me up as an unjust judge, because I am judging wrongly because of something inside me, not because of something outside me in another person that is not like me. And so I must learn and actually have those other people be my mentors. And when that is possible and chosen, become my friends. Okay? That is how we get beyond our impediments. And at least for me, that is how I actually learned how to do this. I'm still learning. Okay. Thanks for teaching me, by the way. Oh, one more. Oh, this one is really good. The VA. The VA. Brought back all the negative experiences and attitudes from the Vietnam War, and my older brother being in that war, and my older brother just dying a year and a half ago, okay, from the effects of that war, the Agent Orange and the PTSD. Okay. And all of that coming back with every Vietnam vet I was ministering to. There was all of that coming back. And I go, okay, I said, okay, Lord, I think I'm getting this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that why I'm really here and not just because of my house payments? He said, yeah, Bob, you don't need a Jesuit psychologist to teach you now. You can actually pick up on your own and go with it, okay? That's what I'm doing there. It's not just what I'm bringing. It's what I'm receiving and how I'm being mentored.